What do you think leaders need to let go of to get to that place?
Well, I think they need to let go of, I mean, the challenge is, and it is exactly what you're asking.
Yeah.
What they need to let go of, unfortunately, is a vast infrastructure of control that demands of them to never do that. So if everything that you're measured by is counter to that,
Right.
it's not surprising that their behavior is aberrant. If you set up a regime where, where as a public company, you have to have return on investment, in the quarter, well,
Right.
it's not surprising that you can't think long term. Right? So you have to actually be willing, and there are very few, you have to be willing to confront those kinds of power structures to say, you know what, we have to set it up in a new way, because this kind of way is really brain dead. And it worked to service the needs in a particular era. It was the industrial model. We don't have an industrial future. Well, I think that some of it is structural. So some of it is that people have actually, understood the limitations of the old diagram and realized, hey, there's a new thing developing. It's network-based. So in a network, it's not a hierarchical diagram of, like, I've got all the power, you have, right?
Yeah.
It's actually a network where the wealth of the network and the capacity of the network is advanced by empowering each node in the network. So the more that you empower the network, the more the whole enterprise has as its capacity. The models, the economic models that we have, are not really built for that. Right? The employment models are not really built for that. The way that people are compensated, they're not really built for that. Right? It's really, we still use resource extraction models for compensation as if we're mining you for time. Right? And rather than an investment model, as if we're partners in your capacity to create a new world. Right? And I think, I'm researching and trying to understand what are the new, how do you
Right.
do the new thing? Because we're still working with economic models, and we went, when you say, well, what does a leader have to do to get to the new place?
Yeah.
One of the things they need to do is to actually design new models for wealth creation and wealth and the participation in that wealth. Right? So if you think about how many companies move into a community and their principal impact is to extract wealth. Right? They take the wealth out of that community. Right? Instead of moving into a community to create wealth, to produce wealth in that community. Right? And those new models, like,
Right.
we don't actually have very good models. We have a ton of models of, we got 100 million lawyers figuring out how to mine you and take away your resources
Right.
and extract your wealth. We have, I don't know, 1 or 2 lawyers working on how you can share in it, right? How you can actually produce wealth and participate in that wealth over time. Right? So, it's one of the things that I'm trying to figure out in my work in education. And in some ways, in education, it's one of the things where, like in science, it's pretty evolved. Like there's a lot of protocol in science where, you know, a lead researcher will do something and work with, you know, 50 graduate students,
Right.
And they all participate in some way
Mm-hmm.
in that success, right? And but that's pretty isolated as a methodology, right? Like actually developing new models of wealth in the workplace, right? How do we create
Yeah.
wealth so that more and more people are participating in the wealth that's being
Mm-hmm.
created?
I'd love to see that, not only in terms of financial wealth, but emotional wealth and psychological
Yeah,
wealth
yeah.
and spiritual wealth as well.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
actually, when you ask people, it's interesting because when you ask
Yeah.
people what they want, often the result, the answer you get isn't actually dollars.
Right.
It has a lot. There are a lot of other forms of wealth, and you know, but we have hardly any exchange rates. You know, we're very we have a monoculture of capital. You know, we have a monoculture of
Right.
cash, and that's the only way we can think about an employee.
Yeah.
And it's when in fact they are multidimensional, and they have real needs and desires. And if we could design a way for them to participate, it could be really powerful.